Go ahead.
Okay, I'm wondering, you're probably wondering why I'm doing here today. It's kind of a short, long story, but the recent part of it is that about 5 years ago I decided I may be moving my business, which I haven't done yet. I don't procrastinate, I just put it off. But anyway, one of the things I thought about was all these records and notebooks I have about the 4th of July. It's basically minutes, financial statements, letters and appointments and things like that. I got a call from Larry Jablonski about 3 months ago, and he wanted to know if I could add a little bit to the presentation that the current Urbandale 4th of July committee was going to put on for the senior citizens. So I said, well, how long of a presentation do you want? He said, oh, 10, 15 minutes. That's not very good. Well, then that person dropped out. And she did it about 3 or 4 weeks before I was scheduled. So I decided, well, just to get after it and put something more together, which is you're seeing what was originally and then was shown at the Senior Citizen Center, and then what was shown to the Lions Club about a month after that, and been revised to what you're seeing here today. This, I don't care who monkeys with it or whatever, but if you want a copy of it, first I'm leaving copies here with you guys. And if anybody else wants a copy of any of this information, just let me know what your email address is, and I'd be happy to pass it on to you. So what we need to kind of go over here is what is going on. So the purpose of to clarify what I'm trying to do, is that just to provide an overview, not read a lot of details, but I do have them on here. We'll just flip past those slides of the celebration through 2002, which is the year that last year I was on it. It's in 2 different parts. One's the documentation of events that can be recalled by others and available in writing from the middle of the 1950s until 1980. And you'll see what that is. And the rest of it is to relate the saved document events and experiences that I came up with in the 20 years approximately. You're willing, if you're able and willing, you can interrupt me at any time, bring out a point, or ask a question, or fill in a gap, or correct something. So I don't know who this person is. I think it's Mrs. Campbell. But back in 2014, I had a conversation with you, and essentially it's what's in Virginia's 2 articles. Somehow I come up with the name Bob Lewis. I think that you...
Bob Lewis owned the cafe. Bob and his wife.
So anyway, it was a street dance they had for the high school, I assume, grade school.
Yeah, because in those days you had to make your own fun. And it was very boring long weekend. And I was good at throwing parties, so.
Well, you had Gunsmoke.
And Dad went along with everything I asked, and we got the guy that was maintenance, that cooperated, and we just, yeah, it worked real good.
I'll get a copy of this.
Your dad, Muggs, and Barney Wilder were on the committee, that you recall. And Janice Clements, which I never did find.
She's still living.
Oh, you ever run across her? I couldn't get her from any of the public records.
Yeah, Barney, he had the
She was at the ice cream social.
Yeah, yeah.
This year.
If you need it for more presentations,
And
we
you
can
can
get
put
it for
their
you.
name, so if you
Yeah, yeah.
do something again, let me know.
Okay. Oh,
I don't know who that is. But anyway, I'm also doing some remodeling of a part of my home, and I had a
Homestead.
double wide
Mhm.
closet with metal shelving in there
77. When did we
that
get
goes
that?
up 6 foot.
Huh?
When
In the
did
case,
we
I
get that?
saved, I don't know
1984.
why, but for 76, 77, and 78, I saved a lot of the Urbandale news. And I still have a pile about this much to go through.
Wow.
But anyway, there was a fellow by the name of Muggs Olmsted who became, this is his
What's
nomination
that,
information.
1977?
But he became Citizen of the Year in 1977.
Marilyn Cole.
And it points out in here in the second paragraph, has been on the 4th of July, has been the chief organizer of the 4th of July parade. It's mentioned in there. Do you have any idea who wrote that
Mhm.
nomination?
No, I do not. I could surmise, but that would not be correct. I don't know.
Okay, Virginia G's article, she had 2 of them about 10 years apart. And the first one's basically visiting with you, and the second one she put on her detective uniform and added to it from getting information from, I assume, the Urbandale News.
Mhm.
But anyway, during that period, this comes along in the 50s, late 50s, 60s, 70s. It was progression that you might expect the committee to have. And I didn't see it until 1968, and I was nearby at the time. But, the fireworks were as developed as they are now, you might say. But you still had go up in the air and have a report or a boom, you know, Bob
We could-
Daybro called them boomers.
Oh.
Ron, could I interrupt you a little bit
Yeah.
about the fireworks? We came to Urbandale in '56, and it wasn't long, and for several years, I kept the fireworks in our bedroom closet. That tells you how many fireworks we had. My wife was not too happy about it, but we stored it for a few weeks before, and I think we'd get it out of South Dakota and bring them down, I'd stick them in the closet. That was the fireworks.
You had an Omaha company run by an older couple, the years that I recall.
Oh, we got
Well, I may be mistaken where they came from, but I thought they came out of South Dakota.
There was a problem back then that if they were fireworks that came into the country from China, we shouldn't be on our Independence Day shooting off foreign fireworks. So how they got around it is that they bring in the components into the United States and then assemble the fireworks after that. This is just excerpts from that same one, and since all of you probably read it anyway. And I'm leaving all this information here so you can go through it at your own speed, but there is more here than what I probably should have. Les Hamilton's the only other person that I had contact with and that had been in the committee for quite a number of years and could have been from inception. He says it started in 1979. And not the celebration, but the organize the committee.
Oh, the organization of the committee?
And somewhere in here it has some more information, but they raised $600 from the Urbandale business community and pledged never to come back and ask them for more. Now you'll see later on how that came up. But anyway, he felt that the reason that they were organizing the committee and keeping it going was so that these festivities would keep Urbandale residents in the community and they didn't have to go someplace else. That's his explanation.
That was our parents, I'll bet. Keep us at home.
I know that my dad, John Reynolds, and Harold Foote, and Frank Gibson, in the early days of the 4th of July, when they started, other than the parade, the foot races and that, they are the ones that got that going for them. Through the Lions Club, they all belong to the Lions Club. And that's what it started with. At first it was foot races and all that kind of stuff, like, I think, to be real truthful, was stuff that they did as kids. You know, I mean, that, and again, I think you're right. It was a way to keep the kids here in Urbandale and keep them entertained.
It was.
So out of those papers I've been going through the last week or so, the committee is really active. And here's a couple articles about street dance and the rules for the parade. And here's some art show rules. And here's a schedule I cut in 2 pieces so I can get on one slide. Now you can see from the list of, well, here's one you would want to miss, the annual rolling pin.
Oh, tossing, yeah.
What year is that? Doesn't, oh, 77, I see it.
77.
I see it.
Yeah, it's not in the article, but that was when the paper, it's 6/23/77 was in the issue. So that's all I really know for fairly certain, or seem reasonable for the timeline through 59 through 80. And again, they started out with $600. Activities were all in one day to start, expanded in the 60s to more than one day, including midway rides, a band concert, and talent show. Talent show was on quite a few years, and of course the band concert was on quite a bit too. We used to have one Urbandale community band, and then we suddenly had 2, an adult band and a community band. Keith Nash was helping that. Financial status in 1980, we had just under $4,000 budget, and from the music company, they got half of it approximately in 1950. Booth rentals, $945, donations of $22, and then some minor.
Does anybody know how much they spend on these things nowadays? How much the budget is today?
It's probably under 30,000 for fireworks.
Wow. Wow. 1,200 to 30,000.
Yeah,
Wow.
there's a graph in here that you'll see.
Oh, my.
So here's a financial report. It's signed by somebody called Jenny Campbell Treasurer.
Okay.
And this is the first one I laid my hands on. That was, well, it was the ending one for the prior year for 1980. It was 81 when I first walked up there. And you can see that Harry Murphy Amusements was the one that didn't have a contract for $1,700, but he donated $1,700. And what was that couple's name? Lived out on 100th Street that had the
Grimm's.
trinkets.
Oh, the Grams.
Grimm's.
Grimm's.
Grimm, yeah.
Yeah, Betty Grimm.
Yeah.
They're the ones that had contact with him.
They sold the
Trinkets.
carnivals and trinkets. They sold plush, so they called it, and so on to carnivals. That was their business.
You see, fireworks was $1,220, and that's the reason I'm sitting here today.
How much was it that year?
$1,220.
$520?
$1,220.
$12.20, yeah.
Mike Carver, he was here. Do you remember the guy could hardly speak very loud? He's my friend, I can say that. I was on the committee, and in the, excuse me, in the late 1970s, he asked for my help in passing around the donation bucket, which was a Kentucky Fried Chicken bucket that stood about this tall.
And they recognized us because we wore white pith helmets.
I don't think I ever had one of those.
When we were, I think we wore those during the day too, because kids would come up there with firecrackers and they'd be tossing firecrackers, and we didn't want that to happen during the day. And we'd say, hey kid, give us those firecrackers. And I got quite a box of firecrackers that way. Take it to the kids.
So for me, 1980 was a turning point. What happened is that I thought the fireworks were a little disappointing. After passing the donation bucket around for some time, and it was one of those really hot 4th of Julys where you were melting in your shoes. As I checked in my bucket money to John Ward, who was in the shelter house, and I was walking across the street, the fireworks started. And I go in and find something cold to drink, and a chair, come out, sat down, said hi, fireworks were over. And no kidding, there was better fireworks in most people's backyards, in my opinion, than what I'd seen there. So I decided I'd just go up to see what was going on with this committee, and I wasn't there to join it. I was involved heavily in the Soaps Carmel in the Chamber of Commerce. I was on the Board of Adjustment. I was handling traveling teams for the hockey league. I was on the Pope Des Moines Taxpayers, so I had plenty of things to
And
mess
take
around
care of
with.
kids.
Yeah, that too. So,
Yeah.
in the case, I go up there, and so here's what my interpretation was. And sorry, I don't hurt your feelings at all.
No?
You weren't the chairperson. Husband and wife were Denny and something gas.
Oh, Mary Ann.
Mary Ann, yeah.
Okay.
So I call it an informal meeting structure. I mean, there's rumbled on conversations talking about nothing to do with the 4th of July, and meandered around, and it's supposed to start, I think, at 7 o'clock. And well, after that, they were still trickling in. There's probably a dozen people there, I imagine. And so she said, well, I guess we'll get started. I don't recall who stood first. Maybe you got your... I didn't remember you being there that day.
I may not have been.
Uh,
I don't know.
and then anyway, the next thing that I noticed was I was sitting next to or near, within one of Les Hamilton. And I knew him and knew of him because every time there would be a tax or a budget in the city, he'd be up there letting his guidance. And from the Chamber of Commerce, we were monitoring the city council meetings, so I was up there for several. He was secretary, and he was reading the minutes, and I just happened to glance up. The back part of these minutes were on yellow, blue-lined, like Big Chief tablet type paper. And underneath the back of it was, I can't tell you what it was about, but it wasn't anything about the 4th of July. So he'd used a used sheet of paper to write something. He's no copies for anybody, and no way to know whether those minutes were correct or not. And I can tell you later on, he was secretary because he wanted to do it all the time. It's okay. But he had a little trouble getting people's names right, and he kind of structured the minutes the way he might have visualized them a little bit more than somebody else. But a good fellow, and spent a lot of time at things. They had purchased 200 buttons for $154 and sold them for $1. And they sold $132 worth and cost $154. And I asked what the reason was, and Hamilton didn't know, and you can't recall either, but it seemed like it was just about that time buttons were like I Love New York were just coming on, so this might have been just a shot in the dark. I just have to think about that.
A step too soon.
So I didn't need to ask much about the fire equations, because a citizen who was Bob Davio was quite intense on asking questions, and I appreciated that. It was real that the person that was asked to purchase the fireworks was given a $1,500 budget, plus 120 or something like that for a shooter. And he thought that was too much to spend for fireworks, so he spent $1,200. I don't know how I got the $1,220 or whatever. That was I'm pretty much sure how that was, because that's kind of
The way he was.
yeah, he was kind of frugal.
Yes.
So somewhere in there, I introduced myself, related my participation and disappointment, but then suggested that the fireworks budget for the following year, which is 1981, be $3,000, and this caused a lot of stir. There was, I don't think it was a chairperson that could have got them to calm down at all at the time, because some were, I think, kind of justifying the way things were, and others were kind of on the road that they wanted to expand things. But in any case, eventually moved along. So I offered a solution in my mind that we expand the buttons. That was a good idea, and put in sequence, number the buttons from 1 through whatever we ordered. This, you want to know what number, someone before I got a chance to ask, asked, well, what are you going to do with the numbers? And I said, well, we'll get some prizes and have a drawing. And so where are we going to get the prizes? And I said, well, probably, and I was involved with the chamber, the business community would like to do something like that. And that's where I found out in no uncertain terms that they got this $600 back in 1979, and that we never asked them for any money after that. So, and he just as kind of said, well, how much are you going to charge for each button? And the people in the committee were not listening to that. They were questioning about whether they should get involved with selling buttons and whatever. So the solution I offered is that we would not ask anybody who was in business in 1959, and this is 21 years later, and I was asked at what price eventually. So, and Les was asking the questions. Would you, what, you're going to charge $1? I said, no. $1.25, he said? No. $1.50? No. How much then? $2. Oh, all got to chattering again. So anyway, Les made this, proposed this motion. He said, I make a motion to accept Cross' proposal, and I'm sure he did, I'm pretty sure he did that, to bury the situation and get on to something else. But it passed. Now, in order to get the $3,000 budget, I didn't have any authority to do it because we never even thought about it. But I said that if we can't make it up in button sales profit, then the Urbandale Chamber will make up the difference. And that was where he was short some money. We were $1,000 is what we were guaranteeing. It's because they hadn't spent so much before and should increase it a little bit. And can't recall exactly how the math came out. So because the buttons situation, that's why I joined the committee. The committee changes focused on how it worked. I know, well, for instance, Carmel and I worked well together on the Chamber of Commerce, so she came on the committee also. And things are pretty much as, if I'm taking too much time, just tell me, I'll cut this a lot shorter. What do you think? What do you do all the time?
Good.
Go.
Okay. I noticed the papers, there were several articles, and because Les was owned the paper at the time, there was a lot of requests, even during, after the committee was dated originally formed, but in like March, April, May, still looking for other people to join. And I kind of took it upon myself, not as a focus, but to ask people who I was comfortable that, you know, had some talent and would spend their time on good projects. So kind of added to the committee over the years. I don't know when'd you move here, Cynthia?
Which time?
Oh, that's right, you left about 85 for a while or something
Then we
like that.
came back perhaps in 85, left in 90 then.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
But
that-
initially,
Initially,
when he started Parker's,
oh, 62.
Oh, is that long?
61.
yeah, he started Parker's.
You sure it wasn't about 71?
Adele.
You'd know. I remember I was a controller at,
You wanna know how they
Really?
met? That's a good story too.
Not this time.
About this
but anyway,
time.
Bill and I went out and met with Bob, that's the first time I met
Yeah,
him.
yeah.
Weren't they the first ones in that industrial park?
Well, they built that 100,000 square
Park,
foot
yeah.
building, but not
Yeah,
the park,
Parker's
no.
was the first one to build it there.
Oh,
Well,
I'm
Super Value really.
Super
was-
Value, yeah, Super Value building.
Actually, Western Electric was on before that.
Okay,
I already own that property, is the reason I have to know something about the background.
The reason Cynthia remembers is that Bob came here as a bachelor.
Oh,
And
really?
met Cynthia here.
Mm.
So
Oh, met you
she
here.
knows when he came and when they married
It
and
was in the
everything.
60s.
So look what he found.
So also during the progression of time here, we developed a subcommittee process where certain members would get after particular tasks. And broadly, you know, one was concerned the amusement company, booth rentals, which is along the street, Prairie between 71st and 72nd. Button sales, purchasing and the fireworks, fun runs, which was really outside the community, and park activities like boy and girl running and things like that, and the street dance. So over the 20 years, from 81 to 2000, the budgets increased about the same multiplication as what they did in the first approximately 20 years. If you take, how did I do that once? 7 times 600, you're at 4,200 versus 4,000 on the 81. And 7 times 4 is 28, so it increased about 7-fold in each of those 2 periods of time, which were approximately 20 years each. What factors caused the change? Well, there's steadily improvements in expansion of the fireworks display, 20+ minutes, 600 or more shots in the finale alone. Revenue substantially increased for the music company contracts. Bigger and better midway rides and concessions, especially when I found Sam's Amusements. Parade expansion in popularity. Expansion of events, street dance, skydivers, musical groups. That's broad summary. There's a lot of other things I'm sure involved. The amusement company contracts are the lifeblood of the financial process of how the Urbandale fireworks and Urbandale celebration can go. And if it wasn't for strong support there, which is over 50% of the budget revenue that comes from the amusement companies, we couldn't operate nearly at the rate it was this year.
When you get done, I'd like to go back and address that a little bit. The
Okay,
amusement companies.
well, that's right, you found one down Kmart. The contracts, for example, we had Harry, what was his name? I just saw him a couple of years ago, he still lives.
Harry?
Yeah, his first name, has a carnival.
Oh, I don't know, no,
Uh,
I don't know the carnival.
I'll come to it.
Okay.
And then he sold out to a farm couple in northeast Iowa named Fry's, F-R-E-Y-S. Charlie and Lovanna Fry. And I didn't put in the picture that they first had on their first announcement. They looked like a farm company, couple. A few years later, I saw a picture where they were at that time, and I can tell you that Charlie hadn't changed, but Lovanna had. She worked out well in the carnival business. I liked her. She was a do good, do well and get after things sort of person. Example of contracts. Here's one in '96 that Fry's had, and they're pretty much the same. But, they pay the committee 20% of the gross receipts of all rides after they deduct sales taxes and insurance. Insurance is between 15 and 20% of the revenue that goes to insurance, so it's a significant. And then today you'd have 7%, but probably 5 back then for sales tax. And then we collect money for those on the north side of 72nd Street that have booths. And we also correct? They pay.
Collect?
Collect, thank you. The carnival pays for their games and food for each of their booths. And at that time, there was $100 for non-food and $250 for selling food. Back in '81, I think it was $20.40 or something like that was. Because the celebration got bigger and the population got bigger.
They were making more money.
Yes. And the committee had a better chance of getting more.
Mm-hmm.
Sam's, they paid 25% of the first 25,000 gross receipts. Again, after deducting taxes and insurance. And then for all above 25,000, they paid 30%. They paid, which hadn't changed between the 2 years, same amount. Minimums were not a factor. One of the most lucky things I found or got into in there was 3 of them, and one of them was finding Sam's Amusements. Fry's I put up with for a couple of years towards the end of their last 2 years, and Lovanna wanted out of it and she wanted to move to Louisiana, which she did. She came back 1 year after I had trouble with her son, and let me tell you about her son just briefly so you'll understand what I mean. He was a fellow that believed in drugs for better living through, what was that?
Chemistry,
West-
better living through chemistry.
That's right. Thank you. Should write those things down. They sold their right and their equipment to out. Part of it went to Texas Star Amusements down in Texas. And Serber was her last name, but she was a carnival person that had been in family for at least 3 generations. I met all 3 generations. They come up here and they had enough rides and everything, but the help was not clean. The equipment was not well, looked good. And I had a 30-something-year-old lady who knew a lot about carnivals. And she was sure that up in the Ferris wheel, that they're holding that Ferris wheel together with duct tape.
Oh.
And she doesn't go to the committee, and she goes to the city and makes a statement of this. And I did look it over, and there was duct tape around, well, there's a lot of fluorescent lights on a Ferris wheel, and they put tape around, so I suppose that the cover didn't accidentally come off. But it didn't work out well. And the time that, the time we got these people, Fry's had given notice too late, and so we couldn't pick anybody up. There is a family called Davis here in the Des Moines area, which has shows, has carnivals, but Sam's has pretty well eaten them up, alive now. And they would probably have been not as good as Fry's, and probably not any better, or probably a little worse than Lone Star. In any case, this was pretty lucky, is that I was in Knoxville until just the end of last December. I was a commercial real estate broker for a number of years, and I had it was the Knoxville sale barn for sale down there. So I was, this is in probably August I was down there, and I noticed a show bill for celebration, the county fair in Oskaloosa. So I knew it wasn't all that far away, so I, after I get my meeting out of the way, I go over to Oskaloosa. It's now about 10:30 in the morning. It rained the night before, and I met a fellow. His name is Larry Newkirk, and that's a picture of him I just took in 4th of July this year. He's Sam Whitaker, which owned Sam's Amusement when I was first there. He sold out maybe somewhere between around 7 or 8 years ago to Gary, I don't remember what his last name is right now. And that was really pretty fortunate, because Sam had really good rides and well, looked good. But Gary's he's bought probably these 3 major rides, they call them, and they cost probably over $100,000 each. Another thing about Sam's Amusements, they were only in Iowa for Sheraton, and that was for their 4th of July, as I found out later on. So when I asked about whether they were ever heard of Urbandale's celebration, indicated that they had. So I said, are you tied into being at Sheraton? And, oh, no, we just have a year contract, that's all we go for. And I said, well, if you'd like to take a look at Urbandale, I gave him my business card, and he said he'd pass it along. So about 2 months later, it was in October probably, I got a call from Tom Thomas. And these were actually circuses that this family owned over the years, and used to play in Mount Air, where I came from. But I didn't know it was Tom. Cut out a deal with them, and so they started the next year, which was '97. Since that time, they picked up Ankeny, Grimes, I think, I'm not sure they still do it on the south side, that was just set apart. Bondurant. Did I get Johnston in there?
Yeah, well, we did.
Okay, but they picked up where they can pretty well sit within 10 miles out pulling stuff to hook it up and move
And
it
they're
around.
all a week apart.
That's right.
If you
Yeah, boy,
think
that's
about it, that's a good deal for them.
Good for them,
Yes.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, they used to go, after come out of Urbandale, they go over to Omaha, in that eastern Nebraska area.
Now they go up to Ankeny, because Ankeny's right after us.
Ankeny's probably bigger than ours.
Yeah.
And I know their amusement company is, because he gives me the figures every once in a while, but not recently. They sell signs or vouchers where you can go ride as much as you want to on the ride for the whole day. I don't think you get much more money on that, but it did increase the crowd for them.
Mhm.
Sam wasn't overwhelmed with doing that, but he did up there, and I never pressed it. So, where'd we get the revenue? Well, back in 1980, we got something just a little less than $2,000, or from the $1,800, I think it was, from the amusement company. Then you can kind of see it went on up, and I can't tell you why that last year was down. It could have been we had bad weather or really hot or something like that. Oh, Murphy's Amusements is what. I have no idea. Do you recall at all how many years they played in Urbandale?
No, I don't even remember when we started having them.
Bob can help us out. So, Sam's Amusements, still there. See, this is nearly 11 years. Fireworks are great to watch, costly. Storage is the problem, except if you've got somebody to put in their house. And the experienced shooter a must. The last one I put in there is because we had, well, as you pointed out in your things, a lot of troubles with the fireworks companies. They shorted and didn't put the right shells in, and then every time somebody else was coming to shoot him off. And the last year that we did that was, in my mind, and I didn't say anything, but it was the last darn year we was going to put up with this. But we had a fellow that was came in here with a white Cadillac convertible, older one. And he looked like a long-haired friend of Jesus. He looked, you know, that part, like you'd see in the airports. He didn't wait for, I had to be over there in front of the football field. And it had a chain link fence around the area that he was going to shoot him from. And my brother Al had the keys, and I said he'd be over here shortly. He didn't wait. He pushed all of his stuff over this fence, crawled over it, rather than shooting back on the north side of the football field. He set up to shoot. I did shoot off at the front. He never had. He set up the mortars, kind of. Didn't get it buried, probably because it was probably rock and stuff underneath it. And no test shots to see where the winds aloft are going, so you angle your mortar so you shoot it in the wind. I just kind of had it partially on my mind, and I had some relation up in Marshalltown. They was telling me that the Iowa the Veterans Hospital up in Marshalltown had really a good fireworks show. And so I said, would you ask around, see who they use for a shooter? And they couldn't come up with it, but they knew that he worked for Fawn Engineering. I had put together a lease with father and son, and the father worked at Fawn Engineering. So I was pretty sure I couldn't find out. I contacted him. And he said, well, I know somebody does that, but I don't know what his name is. But anyway, they had several employees at Fawn Engineering even back then. And said, yeah, this guy's name is Bill. We'll come to his name right there. And he lives in south of Winterset. Well, I found out that he lives in East Peru. Willis. Bill Willis. Bill is his name. Alva, my brother and I, we had a nickname for him. He's a very nice fella. In order to shoot him off, he'd bring his family up and generally some relatives or other people in the church. And they'd have a picnic over there. And he'd come over and ask questions. And he could have been over there, you know, back to my house maybe 20, 30 minutes ago, but every time he'd leave, he'd say, and God bless you. So we always referred to him as God bless you, Bill.
Do you happen to remember, or does anybody remember the year that the fireworks caught the fire chief's house roof on fire?
That was the last year we had the white
It was
convertible.
when Milligan was the fire chief at that time?
No, Jack Gooding was.
Oh, Jack Gooding was?
I was gonna say, my son-in-law was on the fire department, and of course it was volunteer department then, but I remember him talking about that they were over where they were supposed to be, and they looked over and the fire chief's roof was on fire.
Well, that's a little exaggeration. I happened to be up there at the time,
That's quite a
and
ways.
a wad of paper fell, didn't burn on the way down.
Yeah.
And so, of course, our asbestos sheen over there. So, but nonetheless, Jack stopped the fireworks shoot that night. And that's what I was sure two things, we weren't going to buy from the Omaha people anymore, and I don't think we had that year. And the other thing, we've got to get somebody that is a pyrotechnician. Okay. Bill Wilt, until almost he died, which is probably 20 years later, was still shooting off fireworks for us. And back when I was on the committee, we had kind of a understanding that no more than 30 minutes, but whatever fireworks you had, get them all shot off in. And they didn't have electronic shooting, which they do now. So it took a number of people, you know, to keep those mortars going. But the main item we figured out, without a doubt, is that you need a great finale. So that's a picture, not up here. We don't have a piece of water that big in Urbandale. But that's a fellow that's loading a mortar tube. This is what they look like. Now, that's how they look like today. But back then, they were more like sacks. And they put them in the tube, fuse come out the top, touch them with a fusee or flare that you see for the railroad or whatever with it. You throw them in and stick them metal end. But then they go whoop and then be off. That's where the electronic, but this is for everybody who already knows it, can fill in for me, but essentially it goes down the tube, it's lit, the base explodes, that's where you go, whoop. Then this is a series of fuses in the package, it's above it here. And that's why you see part of it go this way and light up, because it has the fuses lighting up that part of the shot right now. And that's just electronic, I think. Cost of fireworks, you know, I'll be darn, I don't know why, I know if Jenny stayed on there, we'd had it straightened out, but
Yeah.
why does it happen that the fireworks cost goes up if you shoot off more fireworks? I don't know, I'm kidding.
The bulk of the bulk of them, yeah.
Yeah, the bulk of them. So this only went to, I guess I did find through 2001.
2000.
I'm not sure, it might stop at 2001 there, because I don't think I could find 2002. And it was a little above 20,000 when I was the committee. Booth rentals, you're familiar with them. Back in 1980, most of them were local and not businesses. There are a lot of church groups, boy-girl groups that JCs brought things in. Lions Club was had a fish pond, catch a fish every time.
Yeah.
And 80s they added bingo. Booth revenue is a considerable part of the revenue now. 4th of July buttons started in 1981, 1,500 ordered. I don't count the 170 because I never did see it, and I don't think the purpose probably there for the same thing. Celebration theme is imprinted, numbered sequences, and we oftentimes farmed it out for other organizations to do the selling, and they would get a part of the revenue. And most of it sold in a year was 6,000. And you have to have a permit, a gambling permit, and subject to sales tax, so cut some, not gambling permit only costs $25, $35. But button themes, and production theme, we started out paying 60 cents each. And I was going to State Fair, had nothing to do with the 4th of July committee. I was up in one of those buildings up on the hill, and run across a fellow that was selling photo buttons. What he would do is he had a background set up, put 1 or 2 people in the setup. He'd take a Polaroid picture, develop it, cut it out, and put it into a 2-inch button holder. I thought, well, that's pretty interesting, because that's when buttons were just starting to become, for advertising, more prominent. And so I visited with him and asked him if he would want to consider setting up a display, and told him what the rent would be, and that his potential would be pretty good at the Urbandale 4th of July celebration. And he did, and I got better acquainted with him. And I got him on the committee for 2 reasons. One is he produced the buttons for under 40 cents. And his mind didn't work like mine. It works much better on dealing with thoughts and ideals. He picked up where Les Hamilton cut off. He actually probably died in about 1985, I think. But Jerry could come up with themes and also the artwork. So all that was all done. We used to have to pay for the buttons, we had to pay to do the artwork before that. It was a pain in the neck. He got passed away also, but he was on there for a lot of years. And he was an Urbandale resident, but no one ever complained about that. Converting to a commemorative button, assuming whatever 1980 was, it began numbering in 1981, and I got criticized, and rightfully so, that it wouldn't be collectible if it didn't have the year on it. And Urbandale, what the celebration was, and so that was added and maybe embellished a little bit more in 82 and 83. So you're right, the mayor, he requested that he be sold number one. That was Joe Benet at the time. And that was 1983. And then some guy named Zahn, who was an employer in Urbandale, got involved in it after that. Insurance, well, essentially insurance gets more expensive. And the only thing we did was used to, when I first got on the committee, we had a policy, insurance policy, so if they didn't shoot the fireworks off, they'd get the cost of the fireworks. And so one day, another guy and I was talking, and he said, why the heck do we have that insurance? Because we've already raised all the money to pay for the fireworks before the fireworks went off. And we had a hell of a time. Evidently, I didn't know about Bob Simon wanting to keep track of fireworks, but the only place that let us do it a couple times was the fire station, the police station. So that was dropped, but we had to offset it with other liability insurance. The parade, it's been some exceptions, but essentially if parade's on the day of the 4th, no matter what day it is, as long as it's not Sunday. Then on Sunday, it could be on Saturday or Monday. A lot of boy and girl athletic sports parade, in the parade. A lot of horses at that time too. And then we got into too darn many, most of our opinions.
Too many horses?
No, too many fire engines,
Oh, fire engines. Oh,
police, fire department.
yeah. Well, there weren't that many this year, that's for sure.
Well, we had a lot of kids,
Ball things?
Ball things, house.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
There,
boy and girl
Lowry.
Yeah.
pickup loads of
Yeah,
them.
right.
Then the horses kind of went away after they put them to the back of the parade. The Urbandale band, we used to get high school bands in the parade, and then they probably had budget problems or summer problems. In fact, at one time, the high school bandmaster here at Urbandale wasn't going to do it because he didn't
Refused
want
to
to.
let him do it. He was off for the summer, he wasn't paid for the summer, and he's not bringing him back in the summer.
Oh,
That was what he told us.
Yep.
I was on the committee at the time. So,
But he did put them in at least the second year. Or
I
the
think
first
we
one.
finally made arrangements somehow, but yeah, it was kind of maddening. And we used to have the junior high band too, at one
Yes.
time, and they haven't been in for a few years too.
And we had Shrine Band come through too.
Yeah, and they don't have a band anymore, so.
The Urbandale Parks and Recreation Department, I always, my kids like to go in there and run after after the parades. And I don't know exactly why that got put aside. We've had, Kirby's Tournament was around many, many years. And what's picked up substantially over the years is the people participating in the running events in the mornings. Oops. Larry has got, which I just reprinted, a history of that he knows about of the street dance. First had Jerry Reno, who was TV personality.
AKA Lori Nagel's
Yeah,
father, if you know Lori Nagel.
You know her husband, he was on the police force.
Yeah, Mark.
But anyway, in the neighborhood, we went down and, off of Fleur Drive near the airport and saw this group trademark. It was really popular. The guy named David Merrill, I think his name was Merrill, I'm very sure was his last name, which is still around Urbandale, was last I knew, was an insurance salesman. He still has a group, but the trademark was the first performing, not street dance, but just performing musical entertainment that I know that we had. Did you have any back when you were there?
Yeah, yeah.
It's not street dances, but I'm talking about just.
We just take
purely
jukeboxes and things.
Music.
We didn't hire anybody. We didn't have the money to hire people to do things.
We had
A
teen
budget of
dances.
what, 1,500 doesn't get very far.
We had teen dances early in the, because we used the all-purpose room at the Olmsted School.
Oh,
And I wanted
yes.
to talk about Dick Hott. You'll remember Dick.
Yeah, yep.
And so when you're done, and I kind of want to talk across with you on that.
Yeah, yep. Yeah, we got some other things to talk about too. So.
Okay, the trademark committee approved it, hired him. We had to hire, rent a stage and backdrop and some chairs. And they delivered in the parking portion of front of my home. I get a call from Jerry Reno about noon, and says that he's been watching this storm build in the northwest, and it's going to be here and wipe out the time for the trademark show. So I said, well, can we give it a little bit more time here? And so about 3 hours later, I looked out and they were loading up the stage and everything. So he decided that and had got permission to do it in the school commons, high school commons. So that was the first and the last one we had commons, because there was a report that someone brought beer into the commons. We've had mostly DJs the time I was there, because that's all I could afford. Skydivers were really pretty popular, and had them for quite a number of years. And then here's financial information that I can support. Summary, that's what you've been waiting for. It's been 60 years since the committee was formalized. It has been a recount of events for 43 years to 2002, this has been. During the 20 years, the committee maintained a small town activity, first 20 years. But then things were getting away anyway. Urbandale's population tripled from 6,000 in 1980 to 18,000 in, 1960 to 18,000 in 1980. The Urbandale business community expanded, and they were getting more involved in things, and the fireworks budget was one that we happened to get involved in accidentally. And they, in fact, when I started, got into Urbandale Chambers because I oversaw the Pepper Tree Restaurant, which is out here at 109th Street. Eileen Lemon got me involved, or suggested I get involved. Joan and there were electricians. Was her name Joan?
Gordon's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He did a lot of work for us in
Uh-huh.
the early years, getting that ready.
Glenn Gordon.
Glenn Gordon, that's
Glenn
right.
Gordon.
Glenn Gordon, his daughter later had the Dairy Queen down here.
So, the 4th of July celebration has put Urbandale on the map.
Oh, good. Looney Tunes, that's cute.
Well, thank you for being patient.
Good job, good job.
And another year, the people from Arma, Kansas, that we contracted didn't show with the rides at all. And we went down to the
Kmart.
Kmart and brought rides, hauled some things up here and had them. And I arranged to get a car from Fort Dodge that we beat on for
Beat to death.
3 whacks for a quarter. I had to take all the glass out of it first, drain all the gas and oil out of it. And that was,
I remember that, that car that you could beat up.
yeah, get that thing 3 times.
Well, I brought Linda up here too to talk. She was our first queen. We had a queen contest
Yeah.
in the 1950s. We started a queen contest. Does anybody remember Barb Cunningham? She started.
Oh, really?
You know, Ron talked about different people that were on this committee, but when somebody comes to you with suggestions and everything, hey, you're on our committee. So if you've got knowledge of doing something, then that was
Mrs.
good, Barb.
Saturday?
Huh?
Didn't Mrs. Saturday operate that queen thing?
Barb Cunningham.
Oh, really?
And she died of cancer.
Oh,
And you know what?
Anyway, these are the pictures if anybody would like to see when
Yeah.
I was queen. And this was the second year of it. And I can tell about everybody except one girl, and that's the girl that won. And I cannot tell who it is.
Oh, okay.
Maybe
I
you
don't know.
can look at them and see Jenny.
I probably wouldn't remember either. But how she got to be queen was to make money. The 4th of July committee took mason jars, canning jars, and put them in all the businesses on Douglas.
Yeah, I remember
And then
that.
you put a penny in for a vote. And then we counted up all the monies.
This
And
is
that's how
her the crown.
she got to be queen.
I
But if you
remember
see
that,
in the
yeah.
background,
But she was in
Bill
high school at the
Riley's in
time,
it.
but that made us a
Oh,
little
sure.
extra money. So that was another aspect of it, and Barb was very good at this. She'd done it somewhere else and brought the idea to us, and we thought, oh, that's a good way to make money. She was on the committee for maybe 8 years or
Well,
something.
what did Mrs. Saturday do? I think that was her that lived down here.
Betty
yeah,
Satterley.
she might have later on did
She
it.
may have
I think
later.
that she was
But
involved.
she
in
wasn't
that.
the main one, and I'll tell you the reason, the main one that talked to me the most was, and I can't remember her name, but she was in Lionesses.
As Linus.
And when I came back, I've been here in Urbandale and left and come back and left and come back. Anyway, I joined the Lionesses, and she came up to me and she said, I remember you. You were the first queen. And from then on, all they could talk about was when I was a kid again. And I thought, wait a minute, I've grown up now.
But that, you know, you come up with all these, like, Barb died very young of cancer. She got cancer, and it was really sad. And we have a brick out here for her. I'm amazed. And
And then a few years later, this was by the senior citizens, but this is my mother and father. They were the first king and queen of senior citizens for that.